start to create this in your experience, you'll see, because this is the reality.
Yeah.
So it's not a matter of like, you're testing the waters, so to speak, but you're putting into action everything that you've been listening to, using mantra and remaining with your selfless self, and then you actually put it into action. Oh yes, I'm the selfless self. Something pops up and it's like, I don't worry about this thing. Yes, I remain with myself and I observe how all of this is happening, and that it is just a momentary happening, and that it really has no consequence in the big picture whatsoever, because I'm just remaining with my selfless self.
Right. You're remaining with the reality as opposed to the illusion.
Exactly. And you just discriminate from that in every moment, and it's that's it. You just and you'll see, because the entire world is projected on your spontaneous presence, and you'll interact with your own self based on the ideas, beliefs, and thoughts you're holding about yourself that you're kind of filtering through. And if you believe, oh yes, I'm Brahman and I just remain with my selfless self, the world is absolutely illusion and I'm behaving in this way. And then as the projection, again, as it turns up the heat, you just remain with your selfless self through mantra, and all this passes. And then you see it just passed, that's it. So there was nothing to get disturbed about. And like I said, and Maharaj has said, once you know yourself in a real sense, it's no longer a guesswork. It's like, oh yeah, it's impossible that this kind of formally thing that's happening, and that my mind is telling me, I'm looking at this train of thoughts going by saying, oh, this is so bad and this is, but I'm not identifying with these as my thoughts. They're just passing, because I know I remain with my selfless self. This formlessness cannot be cut, cannot be divided, cannot be burned, cannot be damaged. It's always there. I use the body as an instrument to know myself, and that's it. That's the sole purpose of the body, is I'm sitting here, I know myself using the instrument of body. Once that presence that I am the knower of is so solidified, then all these passing form things, they're just passing form things. I remain with my selfless self.
No. The movie goes by frame. It's the mind that connects the frame, so it looks like a movie, but it's actually fresh in every moment. So I heard somebody else explaining that there's no...
Exactly.
It's like memory comes in, and it looks like it's a continuous, but even with a film, it's the same way. They're individual, what do you call it?
Yes.
Frames.
Frames, right. But then the machine makes it seem like it's continuous. So it's
exactly.
The mind apparently works the same way.
Yeah, that's why when we talk about the scenes are just passing before you. And you're taking interest in whatever is happening in the moment, and then it passes. It's just gone. Everything is like Maharaj says, you pick up the glass of water, you drink it, or you pick up the cup of tea, you drink it, you put it down, boop, finished. No need to think about it. Any thoughts come in about the tea, it's finished.
Right.
And everything's like that. And you just remain with yourself and allow these scenes to pass by. And when there's no you, when that I am somebody else is not there, and it's just the formless presence with just aware presence, then there's nothing that is being attracted, because there's no place to land. And these scenes just pass. And people can speak, and you can speak, and back and forth, but there's no I am somebody else churned that says I am this, and I have to behave in this way, and I'm a man, and I am responsible for this, and I'm this, and all this kind of stuff. It's not like that. It is literally, you could say, and we spoke about it before, like channel surfing, basically. It's like, okay, boom, it's here. Oh, boom, it's not. Boom, it's here, here, here. These scenes are passing. I'm not passing. I'm not going anywhere. And I'm seeing from the perspective of this body, but the truth is, when I know myself in a real sense, then all of this body and all of this world is being projected on that spontaneous presence. Without presence, no world. And because I know myself using body form, when the body's not there, it's nothing to be concerned about, because I use the body as an instrument to know my formless self. That formless self can't go anywhere, can't die, nothing is happening to it. So the body is just an instrument. And once you know yourself in a real sense, and you've really kind of, Maharaj talks about the spontaneous conviction, and you're just marinating in your selfless self, then there's no more concern about whether the body's here or not here or anything that has to do with the body, any thoughts that come in about body or body-related knowledge. There's no self-consciousness going.
At the same time, though, you're taking care of the body. I mean, if you have, you know, to make have a pacemaker put in, you go and do it.
Indeed, but that was a cool experience because, yes, there was an experience in the moment of this pacemaker and going, but again, with mantra and remaining with the selfless self. And I spoke about it before when I was on the train. I saw these thoughts that were coming in about what's going to happen and how the pacemaker is going to be. And no, I just remain with selfless self, selfless self. And even that was just scenes. Okay, now we're sitting in the doctor. We're filling out these forms. Okay, now we're in the bed. Now they're putting the IV. Now they're shaving the chest and getting ready for but there was no I am somebody else that this was actually happening to. These were just a succession of scenes. And then before you know it, you're waking up and surgery's over and that's that. That's how it would be anyway.
Yeah, whether or
because
not,
when I'm under and they're doing all the surgery, I have as much doership when I'm under anesthesia and they're working on me. I can take as much credit for that as I can preparing and coming into the surgery.
We create all this stuff with our thoughts and mind.
Yeah, and after you know yourself in a real sense, it just won't make sense. The story's okay, you know, and you can use duality basically of, yes, I'm doing my job, I'm doing my duties, but I'm remaining with myself. And all the seeing is as if it's inward seeing. You're remaining with yourself and seeing from here, outward here, but knowing that it's all coming from your own self. Nothing to fear, no one's separate. Nothing, no possibility of this. And we've said the exercise before, pull the presence out of each one of the bodies as a dead body. Put the presence back in, click with the body, and they're speaking and all this. But it's one presence because you know yourself in a real sense as the formlessness. The formlessness can't be divided. So that same presence is what's activating all the body forms, speaking and listening and believing itself to be separate, with the ideas and beliefs and concepts that are being believed in through the body form that happens to be used in the moment.
and all the emotions and you know, ideas and things like that are all arising from the body.
Well, these are just layers upon your spontaneous presence, and they come along with mind, ego, intellect. And you're kind of, these are just flowing, like we talked about in the river, just flowing, flowing, flowing. But then all of a sudden I'm having an attention of this flow, or I worry that too many leaves are flowing and maybe something's going to be blocked up. The same kind of thing. These emotions or whatever, they're coming and going. They really have nothing to do with you, again, you being the formlessness. And whatever these emotions are, there's no I am somebody else that says it's my emotion. It's just passing through. Then even sadness can be beautiful happiness because you remain with your selfless self, and sadness just kind of flows through. You can identify sadness, but you're not identifying yourself as being sad.
Right. There's a big difference between I am sad and I am experiencing sadness. Or there's an experience.
Where sadness just is happening.
Yeah.
Sadness is just happening. Somehow, some way, there's this flow of sadness and it'll pass. And as long as I don't hook myself to it with an I am somebody else, where the mind-created story starts to Google search why I'm sad in the moment and then push that on me, and I get the pressure of I am somebody else feeling sad, and this is why I'm sad, and oh my God, I'm so sad, and I hope this sadness stops. Rather than just sadness is flowing in the river, okay, happiness is flowing in the river. And that's the thing too. If you're not dipping your cup into the cup of, you know, oh, sadness, here's a cup of sadness, I don't want that. But then happiness comes and you're like, oh, let me have 2 double cups of that. It's the same issue because the pain and pleasure principle come into effect immediately. because I am somebody else is experiencing something as a someone.
Right. So in both cases, whether it's happiness or sadness, you're creating an I am somebody else, because there's a grasping
Exactly.
on, and only the self, only the I am somebody else can do the grasping, because the self doesn't have to grasp.
Yes. It's formlessness. And, you know, like the sky, the clouds are nice clouds, then there are a lot of clouds, then there's really dark, terrible, you know, what do they call it? Gloomy clouds or something, like Halloween type clouds, but the sky is sky. It's just passing.
Yeah.
And truly, once you know yourself in a real sense, you'll be twice removed, because any feelings, any thoughts, you see, the mind only knows the form world and can only present ideas, beliefs, and concepts to you, the selfless self, through form. That's all the mind knows, because the mind came along with the body and introduced to the form world. You, the selfless self, are using the body as an instrument, but when you know yourself in a real sense, automatically the formlessness is the key, and the mind produces thoughts and feelings and emotions and stories through form, but you have no interest in this because you remain with your selfless self. You discriminate and instantaneously, because it's like, okay, this thought is coming in, but I remain with my selfless self, and it just dissolves. There's no me. There's no I am somebody else. And mind can sit there and keep throwing images up of all these different things, but it's all form. And you do what you need to do in the moment, but you don't do it as a doer. You just do it.
Yeah.
You kind of do it without thinking about it, right? Basically.
Exactly. It's just spontaneous action. And if you do want to claim doership, then you can claim doership for all the forms in the scene that happens to be occurring at the time. But again, that'll cause a little issue. But in the beginning, you can look and know that, okay, there's a room full of 5 people. And if I want to claim doership, I'm creating this whole scene, and all these people that are talking to each other in this scene that's being created is inside this formlessness that I am. And at the same time, if I want to claim doership, then I'm doing with all these folks. Each person is doing something, and it's all myself.
That's like the
if I want to claim doership.
Yeah, isn't that the dream world? Because all the characters in your dream are just you.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's just like the dreamer laying down and sleeping, and the whole world is immediately projected: sun, moon, trees, jobs, cars, people. And if you had known yourself in a real sense and said, ooh, like we talked about, I am not a mouse. I can live in the mouse world and go and be chased by cats and do cheese and all this, knowing that I'm dreaming myself as a mouse, but I'm not a mouse. And in the same sense, that dreamer is projecting the entire world and is, of course, all the people and all the things that are in that world by default, because it's just the one dreamer's projection. And that leads us back to waking consciousness and dream consciousness is the same. It's just consciousness, and that happens to be labeled waking and dream consciousness. And both are spontaneously projecting the world that you're perceiving.
I think the mind is part of consciousness, not part of the body. I've heard.
Well, all of it is in consciousness, because you have the idea. See, you, the selfless self, like we talked about, you're the nothing.
Yeah.
The absolute nothing. The something appeared in the nothing, and the appearance is us and how we're speaking and talking about in the separate world and the I am somebody else and all that kind of stuff. But that appearance is actually just in the nothing. You have not moved. You have not done anything. Nothing has happened. And that's why in this illusion, just like in the dream, the dreamer tries to know themselves and says, oh, I'm dreaming. That way, when whatever is going on inside the dream, they know ultimately I am a dreamer and none of it is actually occurring. And the same with the selfless self, knowing yourself in a real sense, using the instrument of body in the form of illusion, you know yourself, you root yourself in yourself, and therefore when the illusion is there or not there, it does not matter. nothing that occurs in the illusion matters, because you know yourself in a real sense. And then everything just dissolves. You are the nothing appearing as something in the illusion that you're perceiving, so that you can know yourself using the illusory body in the illusory world to know yourself in a real sense. So that when the dreamer wakes up, it's knowingness. Yeah, okay, I was just a dream character. All that stuff looked like it was happening, and I was involved in it for a time, and now I'm not.
Yeah, the same analogy is for the guy playing King Lear. You know, like he's going on the stage and he becomes King Lear for however many hours of the play, and then he goes back to his apartment and pops a beer up and watches TV. You know, he knows he's not King Lear.
Exactly, yeah.
It's just remaining as the screen, the white screen, without taking any of the imagery seriously, basically.
You don't take the touch of the illusion.
Yeah.
Because you know yourself in a real sense. So no matter how real it appears, do what you need to do right in front of you, but no story is created. It's just spontaneous actions, and they'll all be correct actions because you're projecting the world. You'll start to see this interaction with your own self through the form of world. It all just appears on this spontaneous presence. And you'll see also that as these illusory concepts are slowly, silently, and permanently being dissolved, your view of the experience of world changes dramatically. It's no longer me and you and this and that. It's just a formless, using form spontaneously without thinking. Just I. But you know, like Nisargadatta Maharaj talks about first thing in the morning. It's just I, just I. There's no I am somebody else. It's just a feeling of presence that is arising before you know yourself, before you recognize this I am, you are.
Yeah, it just struck me that all the problems that the me thinks it has are a result of it considering itself to be real.
Well, and again, the problems are only because there's an I am somebody else. If there's no I am somebody else,
right.
Problems, you could say a challenge arises in the moment, but it's not, it's just not, you don't take the touch. Like you were speaking about in The Actor, if I'm playing a role and my character is told that he has cancer and he's going to go in the hospital and it's going to be a lot of painful treatments, and I have to go through and listen to the doctor tell me how painful these treatments are and all that, I can sense and feel in the moment, ooh, this does not sound good, but in reality I know I'm the actor in this. And in the same way, as long as there's not an I am somebody else created and I remain with my selfless self, I can go through these different various experiences without creating an experiencer. No footprint in memory and no judging past and future or creating them in mind and saying, this I do not want to experience. Oh my God, what if this happens?
Yeah, there's no resistance, right?
There's nothing to resist. There's no one to resist. Space can't resist itself. There's nothing.
When there's no you, there's no master, correct? I mean, basically, when there's no you, there's no master.
No, nothing. Ramakant Maharaj has said before, see yourself as formless and see the master as formless, and then there can be no separation. This is the truth.
That came to me this weekend. I had a wedding the other day, and the father of the bride, he was a born-again Christian, and you know, he wanted to speak with me before the ceremony, so I got to the venue early, and we sat and chatted, and you know, he was really very strongly embedded in his newfound faith, and you know, and he asked me, you know, is Jesus your Lord and Savior? I said, Christ to me is everything. So anyway, but I was waiting. You know, the wedding was a little late because the bride and the groom, they were waiting for the father, who didn't know he was supposed to meet with them. So anyway, we were sitting outside. I'm standing outside, and all the people are gathering and so forth. And you know, the father didn't want to do the ceremony because of his conscience, because his daughter was married an agnostic Jew.
Bad story.
So he asked me to do the ceremony, but he wanted to provide some of the teaching then, so I said, that's fine. But anyway, I was sitting there just, just looking into the trees, because it was a very beautiful venue in Oak Creek Canyon, which is really very nice.
I've been there. Yeah.
And it's really beautiful. And, just, like doing the mantra, and I just realized that, his teacher is Jesus, and that was my case at one time too. But as I kept doing the mantra, I just realized that, in fact, there is no such thing as the mass. I mean, basically, it's a stepping stone, but it's really bringing you to the point that there is no master. There's no you. It's just basically.
Well, as long as you believe yourself to be in body form, then you can worship the master in body.
You can have it exactly right.
Knowing that it's your own selfless self. You're bowing to selfless self, as Maharaj says.
Yeah. But
still, there is and Jesus is Maharaj. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You're everything and everyone. And if you should bow to yourself in the form of Jesus Christ, or you bow to yourself in the form of Maharaj, or bow to yourself in the form of Buddha, that's absolutely perfectly okay. There's nothing at all, like, oh, I shouldn't do that. The devotion will arise spontaneously. I've said before, like right now, I have Maharaj on the side here, and I sense that I'm at the feet of the master, and Maharaj is in the back there. In my bedroom, I have all the masters, and every night, just spontaneous devotion arises. And there's just always devotion. There's bhajan 3 times a day, just spontaneously, but it's because knowing yourself in a real sense and being able to kind of worship yourself or praise or feel that, it's just an overwhelming devotion. It truly is. There's and every moment is that. Just like you speak about Jesus Christ, and when he said, when I was hungry and you fed me, when I was without clothing and you clothed me, and they said, well, when did we do any of that? He said, whenever you did it for the least of them, you did it to me, for me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's a very beautiful thing when you know yourself in a real sense, and you're interacting in this, like, I don't know what you want to call it, like this heaven on earth, basically. This beautiful interaction with your own selfless self in all the different forms, without judgment, without just in beautiful beauty, You could call it love, I guess, because it's just your own self, and you just want to. I don't know. It's just an overwhelming devotion.
I have 8 saints, basically. Jesus is one of them. Ignatius of Loyola is one of them, and the others are Ramakant, Nisargadatta, Ramana Maharshi, Balsab Maharaj, Siddharaswara Maharaj, and Ranjit Maharaj. And I have no problems with that. It's just sometimes, like when you meet like a born again or something like that, like they eliminate everything else except their particular. But that's basically, I guess, where people are. But that was the hard thing. That was the challenge of being within a situation. It's just so strict and this is it, buddy.
You know yourself in the real sense. There's no I am somebody else with ideas and beliefs and concepts going to be against or for someone else. And it's beautiful to see a human being on fire for that presence. I mean, the event, in reality, they're worshiping their own selfless self. They don't understand this or have this concept. But it's beautiful to see people just become on fire for devotion. And born again or any of these sort of things, as long as you don't go into the particulars, at least for my own self, I can sit across from someone as they just are alive and enthusiastic about Christianity and understanding that, and just being in presence with them and being able to speak quite nicely about the selfless self through the form of Jesus Christ, or, you know, all of these. I like actually watching little snippets on Netflix, like the Bible and stuff like that, because there's an understanding, the devotion. Yes, this is selfless self-devotion. Don't get carried away by the labels and the forms and all of that, but know that it's the same. It's the one self. And also, you're creating this in your experience to probably ideas, concepts, and beliefs. And by holding with your selfless self and remaining with yourself and using mantra, then it just opens. Everything's open. There's no closed down, because there's no I am somebody else that says, you know what, don't talk to me about this because this offends my sensibilities, or any kind of thing like this. It's so open because you know that it's the selfless self, your own selfless self in another form, experiencing the selfless self based on the ideas and beliefs and conditioning that individual form and that individual expression of you is going into. But it's beautiful.
I think I set myself up for this because, you know, like, well, I did. I mean, you know, selfless self set me up for this because basically it was, you know, like I had to kind of deal with that. And, you know, I didn't want to offend him, or I didn't want to do anything in the actual ceremony with his daughter to kind of like, you know, so basically it worked out really well. But it was, for me, it was really a time of really just doing the mantra and seeing that there's a few issues in me that are getting worked through here.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because the formlessness, the formless presence, just enjoy itself as this other form around you. You just, these things happen all the time, and you know, somebody's talking about something, but you're just involved with your selfless self again, because you're seeing inwardly this projection of outwardly, whatever's being spoken about or whatever. This talking is just occurring. There's no me that's sitting there and saying, oh, how do I think about this, or how does it make me feel, or anything like that. And if there is, then mantra. Because the only way that there can be like a me and you is if there's an I am somebody else.
Exactly.
And to turn up the heat, and, you know, somebody can be going on and on about their belief, and it doesn't, because there's no belief here. There's no flag that's planted here that says, this is my stand on this.
Exactly.
It's not like that. The stand is just presence interacting with its own self and the bliss of your own self. And that's the only thing that is having the attention paid to. The speaking is going to speak because it's speaking in the other just as the same. But it's the you and the I am somebody else, and the thought flow of, do I like this? Do I not like this? Because there's an I am somebody else, a like and dislike, pain and pleasure principle. Time is then starting to be created. Like you'll sit there and say, okay, how long is this guy going to go on about this thing? And that's because there's an I am somebody else with opinions, with thoughts, with beliefs, with ideas, of positions being taken. And once the position is on the map, time begins. Because it's no longer space in space, it's now a point on the map.
Right, right.
And this is good experience. This can be seen. This is the joy of knowing yourself in a real sense, and yet interacting with yourself in this illusory form world quite nicely, untouched by any of these concepts and any of these you know, ideas, beliefs, or any of doubts or anything like that.
Yeah, it was really a good experience. Basically, it was just, and that's what it just showed me, that when there's no you, there's no master.
Exactly.
Ultimately, but it's, devotion is something that I know that I never would want to give up, because it's really a sense of gratitude to these masters, these teachers, you know.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, and that's, I think it's either Bhagavad Gita or something where somebody says, you know, the highest that is devotion after liberation. After you know yourself in a real sense, that devotion just wells up. It's spontaneous. At least in this case here, the devotion is always. That's what makes everything so beautiful. You walk outside, and just the beauty of everything, and because you're just space moving in space, and everything is absolutely perfect, because there's no I am somebody else that can complain about anything being other than what it is. And you're literally just swimming in space and seeing, but remaining with the seer. What's seen is checked, just like we talked about, as if you're going around with a digital camera and taking a bunch of pictures, but you're never getting them developed, and you're never sitting there and putting them in a book. You're just enjoying the taking of the pictures.
I have a question about what if there's something that arises that is you would call evil, let's say, a tendency on the part of another person. It's like, it's not just like, oh, there's no one here, because that sounds like a bypass to me. So it's like, okay, you just follow some inward thing that says, okay, I need to set a boundary here. Or, you know, if there's like someone who's attacking you, and it's like love of the selfless self would mean that you don't just let it go. You know what I mean? Because
attacking you, you mean attacking you physically, or attacking you like cursing at you or something?
Yeah, a sort of manipulation, let's say, where somebody is trying to get you to do something for them, you know, because it's for them, not you. You know, they're using a way of using, let's say. So it's like the
But
love.
again, remember, right now, this is deep into body-based concepts. Deep into body-based concepts, because there's an I am somebody else that truly believes that there's somebody else. And you're creating this in your experience through concepts and ideas and beliefs that you're holding about yourself as it's me and them. And I can't answer that. In my experience, there's no, I don't know how to answer that, because you have to have an I am somebody else,
Right.
with thoughts and ideas. And I think Maharaj has said before, what is happening that's not tolerable, you say is a bad experience. What's happening is good experience, is what you can tolerate. And
Right.
body knowledge is not tolerable. The self-consciousness is not tolerable. So when you remain with your selfless self, you'll naturally see that these illusory layers of this person or whatever,
Yeah.
it's just going to go away, because it's not,
In
it's
that
just
case,
not like that. It's not the reality.
Yeah, you just stick with
sorry?
the mantra. You just stick with the mantra and not,
Remain with your selfless self.
yeah.
Just like if you're the dreamer and you're dreaming and you see somebody mugging people in a park, you might move.
Yeah.
But you're not going to say, oh my God, this is terrible and this is that. And you know, if in a dream you see that you're with an abusive spouse, well, you'll probably get out of that situation without having to think how it's going to affect, what the ramifications are, and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
This is not tolerable, and that's it. But it's going to be spontaneous. There's not going to be a lot of, you know, like a human being type thinking of, should I leave, should I go, what is this, what is that, pros and cons and all this, because there's not an I am somebody else. These things, even when the boss puts pressure on you and things like that, they occur spontaneously in the moment and are quickly forgotten. Whatever needs to be done, if the boss says, hey, you know what, you need to do XYZ projects by Wednesday, then you concentrate right in the moment, XYZ projects by Wednesday. But you don't spend 5 or 10 minutes saying, wow, what happens if I can't get these projects done by Wednesday?
Yeah.
It's the mind stops analyzing, and it's the mind analyzing that creates, you know, what she's talking about.
Yeah, the fear, all of these things, there is just mind-created stuff, and the mind came and after you. Like, It appeared upon your spontaneous presence. And again, any thought
Right.
that is in the form state, you remain formlessly aware. All of these form type things are going to take care of themselves. You'll know what to do in the moment. Like Maharaj says, inquire within, inquire in your selfless self. Oftentimes you might say to yourself, okay, you know, even say, and I will say many times, master what to do, or master this or that.
Yeah.
If there's some kind of decision that needs to be made in the moment or some kind of thing, or thank you, master, you know, these kind of things, you want to interact with your selfless self, knowing that master is not the body form. Master is everywhere in all things. It can be called upon within you
Right.
all the time. And as you start to behave in this way, like the story of Eklava, where Eklava had this statue, and the statue was telling him, no, no, my son, yes, put the arrow this way. Yes, yes, you're doing it correctly. Yes, pull back a little bit harder and all this. This was the spontaneous dialogue going in within himself, the self, that he was trusting the master completely. And by trusting the master, it means he's asking the questions and the answers are arising, asking the questions and the answers are arising internally with your own selfless self. Then, because the world appears upon your spontaneous presence, you will create in your experiences based on the trust and the faith that you placed in your selfless self.
One of the things you mentioned last week, you had said that, like when a problem arises, to focus on the, to keep the attention on selfless self and forget about the problem.
Yes.
And I think that's very true. It's just that it's really hard to do, because there's always this wanting to get beyond the problem so you can get back into an area of relaxation, or, you know, feeling kind of like good again, you might say, or undisturbed, or, you know, see what I'm saying? It's just, it's like the idea that, well, the quicker I can get this through this problem, the quicker I can get back to being with selfless self, you know, rather than just staying with selfless self and forgetting about the problem.
Yeah, don't allow the attention to go out. And if it does, like I just said, this is a key thing. You say, okay, master, I trust. You say I am Brahman, I am Brahman. This problem is happening, but master, I remain with my selfless self. I remain with you. Yes, there is an I am somebody else that is creating the concept of doership, but it's in a positive way. Yes, you're acknowledging this. Okay, before the horses, like we talked about, you're sitting there, you're riding the horses, and before the horses go crazy out of control and just drag you along on the ground, you can be like, okay, master, this is, you know, I'm starting to feel this, and you said to remain with my selfless self. You said I am Brahman, I trust and I have faith in you, and then mantra. Yes, I acknowledge this is happening, but you said nothing's happening. The entire world is illusion. And you can sit there and even run in yourself and say, accept your selfless self. There's no God, no Brahman, no Atman, no Paramatman, no master. Nothing is there. This thing that appears to be holding my attention will pass, as you said it would, master. And that starts this dialogue within. And again, yes, you're creating that conceptual I am somebody else, but you're not creating it to go off and say, oh my God, I have to solve this problem, and then come back to my selfless self.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just as if Maharaj was standing right next to you. Like I told you about in the food poisoning, when he was standing right next to me, I was just like, yes. He's like, okay, John, I'm going to leave you now, and I'll come back in a couple of hours. I was like, you know, yes, master. And I just sat and mantra. It's the same kind of thing, because Maharaj is not physical, and you're not physical. So to be dialoguing with Maharaj, and even if you hear the master speaking to you, you say, oh, master, what to do? And remain with your selfless self. I am Brahman. Behave like a Brahman. Behave like a master. And not master in body form, master. And just remain with your selfless self. Master says the world is illusion. World is illusion. Master says don't pay attention to thoughts as they're coming and going. Don't pay attention to thoughts as they're coming and going. Master also says when in any doubt or any trouble, bhajan, put a bhajan on and listen to some bhajan and remain with your selfless self. Nothing needs to be responded to right in this actual moment. There are no 911 emergencies unless you have to dial 911. So in this moment, okay, I'm remaining with my selfless self. Go listen to some bhajan. Go do the mantra. Go do something. As long as there's an I am somebody else that believes something can be done, use the instruments, the tools that the master has laid at your feet. Yes, you are Brahman. Behave like a Brahman. You're not this limited thing, and anything that's happening to this limited thing that you are not should not touch you.
The bhajans do work for me in that way sometimes when something's in my mind, when I just put it aside and just go into the bhajan, it really puts the whole thing back on the right track, you might say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like Maharaj says, the bhajans are pleasing to your spirit. And whatever that is impressed on this spirit is reflected in your experience. So you want to impress, yes, I am the selfless self. Yes, I am Brahman. You know, mantra, bhajan, flip on a video. I just did like the captioning or whatever, like 10 videos and sent them out. And just listen to a video, pop a video in. Read Selfless Self, you know, flip through any random chapter, or just start and say, you know what, I'm going to read a little Selfless Self right now. Those chapters are really small. They're only like 4 or 5 pages. So you can take a brief moment out of your day and read Selfless Self. Like Eklava, you know, you go to the, what, Master, what are your words? Just like Eklava, Selfless Self, the book is the same as the statue. I remember when I went to India and I told Maharaj, after he told the story of Eklava, I said, wow, you're like my Dronacharya. I don't know how to pronounce the guy's name, but the Dronacharya. You're my statue. Like, all coming to India to see you and praising selfless self, you're my statue, basically. It's true. And now, you know, teach your selfless self. Remain with your selfless self. All the answers are inside you. The entire world is projected on your spontaneous presence. You know this. When you know yourself in a real sense, which if in any time having done mantra and remaining with your selfless self, you felt that sense of presence, that you are the formless knower of this sense of presence that the entire world has arisen on. Remain there. Remain with that. Forget about all this stuff going on out here. Remain. Because once you know yourself in a real sense, you understand that this body is only so that there can be the concept of duality, so that you can know yourself formlessly, knowing that this whole thing is just a form in the illusion, and that when this form in the illusion, meaning this body with the label that it has on it, goes away, you won't, you don't, you always are.
Maharaj says, stay with the seer. You know.
Absolutely. Looks like it's going to storm here. All the clouds are getting very, very, very dark.
Did you get flooded?
In this house, no, but around me, yes, in Ellicott City and yeah, in the surrounding areas.
Yeah. Yeah.
What state are you in again?
I'm in Maryland.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just outside of DC and down the road from Columbia.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good. You're going to be close to. Is it Amit? Is his house Amit?
Yes. Yeah.
Any,
Yeah. It's like 10 minutes up the road.
Has there been any more word about the?
None that I've heard. No. I'll probably ask in like July just to see. I'm sure somebody's going to say something, but in July I'll just say, hey, I know that on the WhatsApp feed. Excuse me. They were saying Maharaj was not feeling very well, so I don't know.
Oh. Oh. Oh.
But
Yeah,
you never know. You know, we'll see what is.
Far ahead.
I had trouble linking up with the. I only watched the recordings of these talks like once, maybe twice, and I tried to link through the email, and when I do, it just I get a message that says I haven't turned on my recorder or something, my cloud recorder. I don't get the recording. So it's on YouTube though, right? I can watch them.
Well, yeah. Number one, I think the second link is the one that can actually download. The first one says something about like you have to sign up or do something like that, but the second one will download. But in any event, I usually, like tomorrow sometime when Kathleen has sent this out, I'll shoot this up onto YouTube, and then on emotionallysober.net,
Yeah, okay.
that's the website that's kind of housing all this YouTube stuff, because the YouTube channel is like very long. It's you know, XZW and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But if you go to emotionallysober.net, the video of today or any previous ones will be on that.
All right. Thanks.
Absolutely. Yeah, now that they're shorter, I don't chop them up. It's just like I just take the thing and throw it up there.
That's good. It makes it a lot easier for you.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, and we don't have to go to Facebook and get little pieces here and there.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, Facebook is no more. Oh, think.
Oh, it's a little bit longer than, you know, not chopped up. The energy builds. When we have a session like this, for me, I find like the energy builds and the information sinks in on a different level than, you know, if you just get a tiny little blurb.
Right. Good.
Because I'm sitting in the same consciousness with the same things I need to hear, and I'm not letting anything outside come in, you know, obviously for this whole period.
Exactly.
Actually, Kate's example of, you know, worrying about somebody in a dynamic was really good, because it's such a reminder of how we get caught in that, you know, everyday stuff and believing it. Yeah, it was very helpful to me.
Good.
Yeah, well, that's most of the path, it seems to me, is recognizing what's going on in the situation that you're in. Being conscious about it and saying, oh, wait a minute, I feel a selfless self. I feel a somebody else arising.
Exactly.
And
And like I said, there's no harm in literally pausing and saying, Master,
Yeah.
you know, I need some direction, or Master, you said, remain with your, and I know actually Christians do that all the time, where they sit there and they say, you said in the Bible, you said, you promised this and that, direct my thinking type thing. And it's this very similar type movement, because instead of getting involved in it, yes, it's true, it is a concept, but you can use this concept like a thorn and you throw away both concepts. But for a time, if you see yourself continuously being drawn, it's like, Master, you said, remain with your selfless self. The world is absolutely illusion. Remain with my selfless self. Mantra. And yes, and I am somebody else is being created to do something conceptually. But just like mantra, just like the bhajan, just like all these things, they're steps towards your selfless self.
Yeah, because the selfless self does everything anyway. So,
exactly. You just have to convince yourself of that.
Yeah, yeah.
You really have to convince yourself that everyone you're meeting and everywhere you're going and all of this is your selfless self. And you convince yourself when you stop, when an I am somebody else starts to form and you forget yourself, then yeah, okay, Master says, live like a Brahmin, I'm Brahmin. Live like a Brahmin, live like a master. All of this is illusion. These are thoughts, they're temporary thoughts, they come and go. These are feelings, but I remain with the one that's sensing these feelings, on which these feelings are flowing on top of my spontaneous presence. And mantra. And it is, Eklava was a perfect example of the selfless self dialogue. And it's called like Nivinam something bhakti or whatever, but it's the selfless self dialoguing with itself. And it's not like, oh, now I'm going down a rabbit hole of concepts or anything like that, because you're not sitting there and saying, who am I, or what am I doing, or who's feeling this, or whatever. You're basically checking in with your inner master that this seems to be happening, but I know it's not. I'm remaining with my selfless self. Master, you said this. Master, you said I am Brahmin. Live like a Brahmin. Master, you said not to pay attention to thoughts because they come and go. Just like I'm on the bank of a river, observing thoughts passing, that's how I am in this moment.
Yeah.
Master, you said, if I remain with my selfless self, I'll know myself in a real sense, and all of this illusory world will instantly dissolve. And I mantra. Master, you said have complete faith in your selfless self and complete faith in the Master. It seems that this is something that's occurring, but I have complete faith in my selfless self, complete faith in the Master, and I know it's passing, and I know it's something that is appearing on my spontaneous presence. And my presence is prior to any of these things that appear to be there. They are just layers on my spontaneous presence, which I am the knower of that sense of presence. That sense of presence is just the perfume letting me know I exist while in this illusory world, using this illusory body. I get to know this existence, this sense of existence without adding anything onto it. And the sole purpose is that when this illusion and in this illusory body I'm leaving, I know that I am. Always was, always will be, cannot die, and was never born. That except my selfless self, there's no God, no Brahman, no Paramatman, no Master, nothing is there. No experience, no experiencer. No witness, no witnesser. That's the ultimate truth. And I think we're at our, I just glanced at the clock. And we're,
Okay. Thank you.
Everybody's good?
Okay.
Good. Thank you very much. Have a nice
Thank
evening,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Stay dry.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, or get a boat.
Okay. I'll come to Arizona and burn to death.
We'll bring you some rain.
Okay, great. Good night.
Good night.